Social media for a company organization somewhere. Good. Well, you are going to love what we have to say because we are going to give you some of the secret sauce you need to sell your executives on to get a larger budget. All right. Everybody in?
Yeah.
3 things hitting you hard. I'm going to keep this theme going all night. Here we go. Hitting you hard. 3 things that matter to you most besides size. Mobile measures. Oh, they're naughty. Mobile measures, captive community, and monetizing engagement. Now, before I start, there will be people who will accuse me shortly of being a crass capitalist. They are right. All right, so I'm going to teach you that this is ultimately about money. It's not about free speech. It's not about free love, even though we're getting to Valentine's. It's about the things that matter up here. First things first. I'm going to tell you, if you are Facebook currently, you are a little worried about the trend that's up here. You see that cute little formula up at the top, E squared. We like to mathematize things where I come from in our practice. And what we talk about is going social and being mobile leads to everywhere, every time engagement. Inevitably, what we find today is those of you who are relying on models that involve access to desktop applications are probably behind the curve. So you need to understand what mobile is and why it's there. And you need to particularly understand the implications of mobile on one single thing: advertising. All right, the bane, for the most part, of the existence of the early part of the social media platforms was the over-reliance on advertising. And as customized as those offers may be to the particular interest usually snagged from customers' data without their consent, nonetheless, the point is really simple. When you don't want that displayed on your phone, how many of you own a smartphone? Okay, how many of you love advertising? Yeah, okay, so you kind of get the point. Yes, this is not a Valentine that I would want to be sending if I was Facebook. So, there are some ROI implications for this, but there are some good news stories in this. So while advertising may be something that for a variety of reasons may fall, something else is not. And that is the arrival of geolocation. And the ability particularly to tie in-the-moment offers to where your customer is at the point of purchase. Now let me just be clear. The holy grail of social media is to impact buying behavior at the point of purchase. Let's not be silly. There's nothing else about this that really matters, actually, in terms of the mobile trend. Because the ability to impact buying behavior in the moment is where this is heading. So the big and important thing there, offer and redemption, for what it's worth. The kinds of things you want to do are to find ways to locate your customers in the moment and tie something that you're doing on social media to an action they do. For instance, to redeem a coupon, to change a purchase, to do some sort of tracking that inevitably ends up improving these very important things. The new currency in marketing will be download apps. Your downloaded app count, your scores in apps, and your ability to generate apps. And by the way, they could be applets, they could be games, we'll come back to that in a couple minutes. Whatever it is in the moment, the new currency will be less viewers wrought large, okay, whatever that is, I don't know. And more specifically, apps specifically aimed at particular kinds of customers. So, there's some of the ROI for mobile. Let's move on. How many of you have ever faced a brand storm? What we call in our practice a brand storm. That is, you being smeared, attacked, otherwise, I mean, it happens to me all the time, but I'm used to it. I have thick skin. I'm a social media commentator. Anybody? Brands being slammed? A few things? Good. I could tell you story after story after story about this happening. And what's inevitable to me is that as you move into a space, okay, let's try something. All right, hands up. How many of you download music? Hands up. How many of you pay for it? Criminals? All right, I just convicted you in the court of law. Let me try something else, okay? How many of you have talked about a brand? Maybe our friends at Via Rail. How many of you? Good. How many of you wrote the general counsel? He's here and asked permission to use a trademark. Just checking. All right, so what we generally have is lawlessness. Yeah, you're all criminals. Yeah, good. Guess what? It's not going to change anytime soon, is it? How many of you in the front row are planning to write Eve right now to say, can you use the Via logo? Yeah, good. That's Richard. He's sucking up to his boss. It doesn't count. All right. So a couple of things you need to know about this, and it's important. The first thing is the R score. In our practice, we warn our executives. When you go into social media, you will stumble into a storm. And then we paint the picture of doom. Just how bad it's going to be. Smeared globally. talking about those nasty incidences with the panties found in the hotel room that were your girlfriend's. That stuff. All right, so the R score. Why would somebody attack you online? Well, let's start with M. M stands for motive. Almost every mainstream company has a group of people that love to hate it. Now, in turn, what you have to do is understand how to get a bunch of people to love you, because I'm going to come to that point in a second. But M stands for motive, and in most cases, there's somebody who has a motive. Then O, opportunity. Social media makes everybody a journalist and gives everybody a publishing platform. An instantaneous ability to share whatever particular thoughts they have, good or bad, as Eve said already, about your brand, and they won't ask permission. So you have there the two things on the top. Now, if any of you know what this kind of equation is, anybody, mathematicians in the audience? There's got to be some geeks in the room, please. What kind of equation is quadratic equation, which gives you a really funny kind of hockey stick-like curve that shows how much your risk increases for the two top ones, the numerator based on the denominator. The denominator, captive communities. How many of you know what that is? Ha, good. You're already behind the knowledge curve. Are you afraid? What happened to all of our spectacular bloggers? You don't know what a captive community is? The difference between an open and a closed community is the following. A closed community has to go through a series of social hurdles to actually want to be behind door number one with you. That is, they're not friends on Facebook. Not that that's a bad thing. We like friends on Facebook. We even like likes on Facebook. But a captive community is particularly those people who have agreed that there is something worthwhile in what you do and they want to be a part of it. So they come over and they join your captive community, whatever that is. And your captive community is your defense against a brand storm. Because what happens is the captive community can rise up and defend you in a way you can't. There is nothing you can say or do that they will believe because you are the brand. Inherently in the web, it's evil. Let me tell you why. You ready? How many of you have been to a wedding? More research. And bloggers, are you getting the counts? Because this is important in your tweets. Gee, where'd you get these guys? They're not researchers. All right. Wedding. How many of you have been to a wedding? Hands up. How many have ever seen a wedding where the bride's hair catches on fire? Except on YouTube. Right. So what are weddings? Weddings, joyful and wonderful sharing, endorsement of a couple's love. I mean, the family lawyers are counting them, future divorces, everybody's getting happy, and it's good. Except on the web, where the thing we feature is the bride with her hair on fire right before the ceremony. And it goes viral because we love it. We love it. I can't believe some of the stuff. I have two daughters, 14 and 16, right? I can't believe some of the stuff they show me, right? Not that you think it's salacious and outrageous. I'd even almost prefer X-rated. At least it'd be interesting. The stuff they show me about cats. You know, and you kind of go, wow. Okay, so what that means is because the ethos of the web is generally negative, neutral to neutral negative, it means that when that motive and opportunity is present, they will take advantage of it. So you need your tribe. And your tribe needs to rise up behind you and defend you and your brand in a way that you cannot. And that's what that formula says. And that formula says it is worth putting time and effort in. Time and effort. And it requires that you want to be in a relationship with your customers. And I know one of my other speakers is going to speak to this, so I won't steal his thunder, but I'm going to tell you there's way too much emphasis on acquiring brand visibility in non-customers and perhaps not quite as much on relationship with existing customers. Social media is a brilliant relationship builder, and it can have a deliberate impact on your captive community, and they will be an incredible marketing asset. All right, moving along. So, how do we monetize? How many of you like to know how to make a little money on social media? Good thing? Good story? Here we go. Gamification. Both, I know, you're rolling your eyes. What's your name?
David Hall.
Okay, he's the most expressive blogger in the front row so far. He's actually listening, David. Thank you. Tweet about him, will you? Come on. What's your last name?
David_Hall.
I love David_Hall.
We didn't put two and two together.
So,
I actually followed you before.
Gamification. Gamification works because
Which I didn't include.
men are competitive. Need I say size to make the point? Staying with the theme. Men compete in everything, even those things they can't change, boys and girls. All right? So one of the things we know about men is they compete. One of the things we know about women is They love to laugh at men as they compete. Yes. So no matter what you do in gamification, you win. Okay? Gamification and virtual goods in that whole space is of exploding interest to marketers because there's an incredible interaction between brand adherence and gaming. And the visibility that you add on competition will drive unbelievable results for your brand. So gamification is an obvious way to monetize. It can be done not only with virtual goods, but it can be done by trading on the gamification elements of this back to the captive community. For instance, put the game behind door number 1, attract them into the captive community, and voila. You just have an instant brand secret sauce. 2, coupon, spiffing, indirect revenues. I think most of you know this. Okay? And let me go back for a second because I want to talk about Jolly Green Giant for just a second. How many of you know Jolly Green Giant? Now, do you know what they did recently? Brilliant. How many of you play Farmville? Come on, this is,
yeah.
My name is, and I play Farm. Okay, listen. Lots of people play Farmville. And if you play Farmville, you are addicted to the currency, aren't you? Because you use it to buy livestock, tools, okay? And you actually make a lot of money for the owner of Farmville. But let's put that aside for just a second. What Green Giant does? Puts a tag worth Farmville dollars on fresh produce. Very, very smart, people. Brilliant. Smart because if you remember my earlier diagram of a closed loop, what it'll tell you is they have proof that they are monetizing buyer behavior at the point of purchase. Because as the coupons come in, to date, 5 weeks in the campaign, more than 100,000 sales, it will tell you it's working. They are buying Green Giant vegetables. So our farmers can be made productive instead of just virtual. Coupon spiffing, same thing, very interesting. Again, connections to geolocation, Foursquare, some 15 million people and a totally mobile native app. An unbelievable opportunity to, again, create closed loop, instant point of purchase. Couponing, spiffs, whatever it is. Now this one. What can you do to build your own downline? Now I know, here we go, MLM. How many of you think like Avon as an example, yes? All right. But all of these strategies have new applications. This is how we bring people into our sphere through, for instance, on the Starbucks app, making recommendations to friends and getting stars or rewards or points. Or every time I use an app or every time I send something, I bring somebody in. Now, consumers might get tired of this. There's a risk in this quadrant down here that you'll overstay your welcome, so be very cautious. But nonetheless, some of those incredible opportunities to establish networks of networks. Social media isn't about your network. It is about the extent to which you can actually penetrate from the person who's in your network into their network. This is well known, it's understood. I'm not sure we have all the answers yet, but it's pretty neat. And you can do a lot of great things with it. Now, the last one, special access and status and exclusivity. And I won't spend a lot of time on that. Again, all you have to do is remember certain logos, right? Think about New Look Fashion as an example, or think of membership has its privileges, some of you may know that. Any of those taglines that offer any kind of exclusive access to things people can't get. Increasingly, it'll be clear that you're going to need to do that to keep the social media market interested in what you have to say and do. Last 2 slides and I'm done, racing as quick as I can. Our first 24 T-chain. So something we're studying is an important question. Why do things go viral? Because one of the things we all aspire to is how do we get things out there that move through those networks. So 3 things we do when we're working with our clients. We say you only have to worry about 3 metrics. Ready? 3 metrics. 1, trending up or down. By trending, we talk about intermedia trending. What that means is whatever the platform of origin for your message, if you started in Facebook, you started in Twitter, wherever you started, how much does it go around inside that platform as a first question? Because it's easiest and has the lowest barriers. The friction to passing this message is lowest inside that same platform. Then we talk about how fast it travels across media. How quickly does it go from Twitter to Facebook or from Facebook to something else? How quickly do we go extra media? And how quickly does it make it from online to offline? Another critical question to going viral. We still know that there's room for mainline media here. Mainstream, normal media, and the connection between offline and online is still there and is present, it's always been. And it will continue to be. So does it travel fast or slow? And tracking. The extent to which credible, authoritative people are picking up your story. That's why this front row exists. This front row exists because media, VRL has decided that you are in the new media that matter. You're credible and authoritative for whatever reason. besides the fact that you ignore the speakers. So, tracking. And that has to be done by segment, brand, and type of offering. There is no general rule for who is credible and authoritative in the space. You need to map that. And that we call your constellation. Your social media constellation is, who do you want to influence that matters for your consumers? You need to map it, understand it, and exploit it. And it gives you your terminal trajectory. So, why do I know it works? Well, I know it works because this isn't everything we do, although most of what we do at Agile is digital strategy. Most of what we do is we run actual sites. We have house accounts, if you like. So we're digital strategists by extension of understanding what works in our real world. And what we do is a comparison of our two companies. Group Dudes, which is a particular community aimed at 19 to 35-year-old men. That's why we know a little bit about this space. And Site Dudes, which is a more small business corporate site. We do different things, different places, and we experiment, just like we do at the university. We actually have these two communities, and we can track and test exactly what works. And if you haven't looked over here at these stats, you should, because they would rank us right up there. We have an unbelievable ability to generate engagement, and that is actually what matters. I think Eve's right. It's not just what you measure. It's how that measurement, that engagement, translates to something that can be quantified. And the quantification of what we all do in this room is very important to our future. We can't lose sight of the fact that it has to happen. So that's where I'm going to end. Thank you very much. It's always astounding to me anybody can listen to me for 15 minutes. Thank you, and we'll see you for the Q&A.